Hello, my Buff 1000 Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, hope it gets better from here. All right, we are back with another Lazy Masquerade. This one is titled Japan's Most Infamous Case, the something incident. Yeah. All right, I've already went past the commercial, so we're getting straight into the video. Go ahead, turn the mics down low, put on something comfy, cut up with someone special. Let's get Guard, probably for live.
By international standards, Japan is one of the safest societies in the world. But on the rare occasion something awful does take place there, the perpetrator always seems to crank things up to 11. Now, if you were to ask a Westerner, what's Japan's most heinous incident, they'd likely bring up the slaying of Junko Furuta, or one of the other major cases.
Uh, I think the worst one I've heard would have to, I forget which channel we watched off of. I think it might have been Coffee House Crime. But it was the one that went into the hospital and killed all the uh, disabled people. That one sounded pretty fucked up.
That have received global attention. But if you were to ask a native, more often than not, the first case that springs to their mind is a region-locked one. A case that rarely gets discussed or reported on in English. And it just so happens to come from my former home city of Kobe. The Sakakibara Seito incident. On the morning of May 27th, 1997, the janitor of Tomogaoka Junior High in the seaside district of Suma began making his way to the school's entrance gate. That Tuesday began like any other for this weary custodian, who always arrived before the students and teachers, just as the sun was beginning to rise. And yet, even at such a calm and quiet hour, there was still a tangible sense of unease in the air. There had been for a while. The city of Kobe was still reeling from a spate of attacks that had occurred earlier in the year, where a number of local youngsters had been targeted by a still uncaught madman.
Oh shit.
In February, 2 schoolgirls had been.
So before one disaster started, another person just went through and killing a bunch of fucking kids, and now there's another. Oh, good God, I'd be all kinds of fucked up if I was these people too. Shit, that's too much.
Bludgeoned in the back of their heads with a hammer as they walked home from class. The perpetrator managed to escape before anyone got a good look at him. Fortunately, despite suffering severe cranial injuries, both girls went on to make full recoveries. This would, however, turn out to be more than just a one-off incident. The same perpetrator struck again on March 16th, this time attacking 10-year-old Ayaka Yamashita and 9-year-old Kazumi Ishikawa. The former was repeatedly clubbed in the head with a hammer, and the latter, whom he assailed just 10 minutes later, was stabbed in the abdomen with a sharp blade. Ayaka suffered a cranial contusion and passed away a little over a week after the attack. Kazumi, on the other hand, survived her horrendous ordeal. Her attacker's blade stopped just short of rupturing her spinal artery. And, unlike all of the others, Kazumi had managed to get a good look at the man's face. Detectives immediately knew that the same individual was behind all 4 attacks. Near the site of each incident, he had left them his calling card. The mutilated carcasses of animals.
What is wrong with people? Why you gotta fuck up animals and hurt kids? Who didn't love you enough as a child, you know? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a big fan of cats, and I have my reasons. I was almost killed by a cat. It's a long story, and it was an asshole of a cat. But when something like that happens when you're a young kid, and you end up having to have a couple surgeries because of it, it scars you. Like I do not wish any ill will towards cats. I love kittens. I like teenage cats, but once they get that crankety, crotchety cat, I gotta cut my ties with them. They scare me. I that's how that the cat that yeah, nope, just nope. But why would you want to just hurt an innocent fucking animal and then go out and beat a kid to death? What happened to you that was so bad in your life where that seems like a fun thing to fucking do?
One location, they found a headless pigeon. In another, a pawless cat. With May drawing to a close, it had now been 2 months since the killer's last attack, and although he remained at large, the local parents, school teachers, and students were daring to breathe a sigh of relief, believing that this deranged lunatic had gotten bored, or moved on, or realized the error of his ways.
Or maybe they're in jail for a completely different reason and they'll be back out soon and doing it all over again. I'm gonna be glass half empty type person on this one today. Yep.
And yet, that sigh of relief had just been replaced with a gasp of concern. On May 24th, a local 11-year-old boy named Jun Hase had gone missing. Everyone suspected that the same elusive man was the one responsible for his disappearance.
Yeah.
As the janitor approached the school on the morning of the 27th, he noticed some small, dark objects nestled on the ground just outside the main entrance. As he drew near, he realized what they were. The mutilated remains of 2 cats. Confused and disturbed, the janitor continued forwards, noticing one more object at the foot of the main gate. Upon closer inspection, he realized that this wasn't just another cat. It was the severed head of Jun Hase, the boy who had gone missing just 3 days earlier. His eye sockets were empty, and small X marks had been carved into his flesh. Stuffed inside his mouth, which had been sliced open from ear to ear, was a crumpled up paper note. On it, Jun's killer had left detectives a taunting message, written in red ink. "This is the beginning of the game. You police guys stop me if you can. I desperately want to see people die. It's a thrill for me to commit murder. A bloody judgment is needed for my years of great bitterness." Beneath this, the killer had also written a message.
So, you're such a fucking pussy that the only way you can seek vengeance for years of who gives 2 fucks is by hurting little kids? People, bro, like, you ever wish you could just go there, see this person in the flesh, like actually be able to just reach out and be like, just bitch slap them? So badly, I want to be able to do that. YouTube, make a thing to where you can like virtual bitch slap people to where it feels like you're actually doing it. That'd be much appreciative.
In misspelled English. Shul, killer. The note was signed Sakakibara Seito, an alias made using the kanji for sake, devil, rose, saint, and fight. Jun's headless body was found later that day, just 500 meters west of the school, on a mound known as Tank Mountain. He had been hidden under the floorboards of an old, decrepit antenna station. It was quickly determined that the boy's head had been removed with a handsaw, and had subsequently been mutilated with the same instrument. Despite an appeal for information, no new witnesses came forward. Even so, newspapers and TV stations announced that the killer was most likely a male in his 30s or 40s with
Is it the fucking janitor? I swear if it's the fucking janitor.
a very strong build.
And I'm saying I'm not blaming the janitor because it's a janitor or anything like that. It's on a place really close to the school. Like it seems like everything's taking kind of place around school. And I'm sorry, but Kids are mean and cruel and assholes, especially to people that work at schools. Like lowly people who ain't even good enough to cook your food, but they're just too, good enough to clean up after your, vomit and shit like that. They're going to treat the janitors like shit. They do. I've seen it. I've been in school. I've never been one of those people, but I have seen those people. So maybe it's the janitor. Maybe the janitor seeking revenge for having to listen to the little shits for so long, and now he's getting his revenge by killing them one by one. You never know. I could be right. I could be right. Don't judge me.
A week and a half after Jun's head was discovered, a brown envelope with no return address arrived at the head office of Kobe Shimbun, one of the city's biggest newspapers. Inside was a 3-page letter, written by a person claiming to be Jun Hasei's killer. In a 1,400-word outpouring of insanity, the killer wrote, "I'm putting my life at stake for the sake of this game. If I'm caught, I'll probably be hanged. Police should be angrier and more tenacious in pursuing me. It's only when I kill that I'm liberated from the constant hatred I suffer, and that I'm able to attain peace. It's only when I give pain to people that I can ease my own." The writer stated that he would be targeting schools due to his hatred of the Japanese educational system. A system which he said had turned him into an invisible person, isolated and alone.
Janitor?
The letter was again signed Sakakibara Seito. However, in their initial panic to cover the topic, the Japanese media misreported his name as Onibara, Devil's Rose. This mistake infuriated Sakakibara, compelling him to send another letter to a news broadcaster. From now on,
How dare you get my name wrong, you fuck. I'm killing 2 more kids today just because of that. You will get it right. This dude's a piece of shit.
if you misread my name or spoil my mood, I'll destroy 3 vegetables a week. If you think I can only kill children, you are greatly mistaken. The term vegetables referred to members of the general public. In essence, he was saying that he would take 3 random lives per week should anyone get his name wrong again. Eventually, a young man in the city came onto the investigators' radar. Someone with a history of tormenting animals. With the help of the eyewitness and victim, Kazumi, they had enough evidence to charge him. And so, finally, on June 28th, 1 month after Jun's head was found outside Tomogaoka Junior High, this nightmare came to an end. It was announced that a 14-year-old suspect had been taken into custody in connection with Jun's murder. The public were astounded that somebody so young was the person responsible. Due to strict privacy laws in Japan, this suspect's name would remain unannounced for decades, with the media referring to him simply as Boy A. However, in more recent years, his true name has come to light. Shinichiro Azuma, one of Jun Hasei's neighbors, and a student of Tomogaoka Junior High, the school where the head was found. Azuma told the authorities how he had lured Jun.
Mr. Janitor dude out there, if you're watching, my bad. I really thought it was you. My bad.
Up into Tank Mountain on Saturday, May 24th, by promising to show him a giant turtle that lived by the water tank. Together, they walked
It's a fucking kid, though.
up a trail called the Chocolate Staircase, all the way to the secluded peak. Once there, Azuma strangled Jun with a shoelace, and then hid his body under the floorboards of a nearby shack. He returned the following day with a handsaw and a black trash bag. There, he removed Jun's head, and even drank some of the boy's, quote, pure blood. He did this in order to cleanse his own, which he considered to be dirty. He also removed Jun's eyes in order to extract his soul.
What the fuck?
He took Jun's head back with him to his own home, and then placed it by the main gate of his school in the early hours of May 27th. When asked why he did all this,
Motherfucker got issues. That's why I did it. It wasn't loved enough as a child. He's still a child. What kind of fucked up puppy dog is this?
Azuma simply said that he had a strong desire to kill that day, and when he came across Jun, who was on his way to his grandparents' house, he recalled that the boy liked turtles and viewed him as an easy target. Azuma claimed to feel satisfied that the boy now belonged to him. His reasons for leaving the head outside the junior high were twofold. Firstly, it was a diversion. In Azuma's mind, detectives would never think that the killer would leave his handiwork outside his own school.
Yeah, that's fair.
Secondly, he saw it as revenge. Revenge against the school itself. An institution which he felt had destroyed his spirit and turned him into a shell of his former self.
Okay.
While being questioned by investigators, Azuma not only admitted to taking Jun Hase's life, but also said he was the one who had attacked the 4 schoolgirls earlier that year, including Ayaka Yamashita, who had perished from her injuries. Referring to Ayaka, Azuma had written in his diary, "I carried out sacred experiments today to confirm how fragile human beings are. I brought the hammer down when the girl turned her face to me. I think I hit her a few more times, but I was too excited to remember." When Ayaka passed from her
fucking
wounds on
serious?
March 23rd, Azuma again wrote in his diary, "This morning, my mum told me. That poor girl that was attacked seems to have died. There's no sign that I'll be caught. I thank you, Bamoi Dokishin, for this. Please continue to protect me." It's unclear who Bamoi Dokishin is, though I have seen one source claim that it's a deity, often depicted as the floating head of Buddha. Why Azuma thought this being was protecting him is anyone.
The floating head of Buddha? Almost sounds like something that's the float. If it's just a floating, why is it just a fucking head floating? A Buddha. Buddha. I like Buddha.
One's guess.
I do.
Whatever the case, the handwriting in his diary matched perfectly with the notes sent to the media. In the end, Shinichiro Azuma was found guilty of Ayaka and Jun's murders and sent to a juvenile correctional facility. His defense attorneys tried to make the case that Azuma had been pinned for a crime he hadn't committed. Now, Japan is notorious for having a 99.8% conviction rate, and is often accused of imprisoning blatantly innocent people by forcing false confessions. His lawyers pointed to the fact that the perpetrator was, according to investigators, clearly left-handed. Azuma was right-handed. Whoever had penned the notes to the media had also made use of many complex figures of speech and intricate kanji, and was clearly a well-read and intelligent individual. With the utmost respect, they said, Azuma, who was a C student at best, wasn't smart enough to have written them. Not to mention, in Azuma's handwritten confession, he claimed to have done things that, quote, would have been impossible for a 14-year-old to accomplish. These statements made by Azuma's lawyers prompted his own mother to visit him in prison and ask him face to face whether he really was the one responsible for committing the crimes he had been found guilty of. With complete calmness and sincerity, he assured her he had. On March 11th, 2004, less than 7 years after being incarcerated, a then 21-year-old Azuma was released from prison, with experts claiming he had been cured of his sadism. Following his release, Azuma published Zeka, the memoir of his 1997 killings. He even revealed how before leaving Jun's head at the school gates, he had taken it into a bathroom and done unspeakable things with it. Despite public outrage that he was trying to profit from his terrible actions and torment the families of his victims, that didn't stop the book from becoming a #1 bestseller in Japan and making Azuma a wealthy man. As if to add insult to injury, Azuma sent his victims' families a personal note of apology attached to a copy of his book. Jun Hase's father, Mamoru, had tried to block the memoir from.
I would have found him and I would have beat him to death with that fucking book. And then I would have set him on fire using the letter that he wrote it with. Piece of shit.
From being released. and has since called for new laws banning killers from publishing books related to their crimes. In 2015,
Look, even if a killer does publish a book, even if you let it happen, let them have a little bit of the money. I'm not a heartless person. I'm not. Let them have a little bit of money. But like 91% of it goes to insert charity here, period, of whatever the kind of crime they did. Whether it be like sexual assault, it'd go to the sexual assault charity. If it went to like murder, it'd go to like, if it was a spouse, like a battered wife, battered husband charities, whatever would be closest to that would go to it. That's what we should do. That's genius.
Shinichiro Azuma set up his own vanity website, one titled The Unbearable Transparency of Being, the former Boy A's official homepage. The site's gallery section was filled with bizarre photoshopped images of Azuma himself, some of which I can't show here. Psychologists have since expressed their views that Azuma is self-absorbed and desperate for public attention, and as the website proves, he'll take it however he can get it.
Definitely got issues.
The site has since been taken down. Despite occurring almost 26 years ago, the infamous Kobe school slayings are still talked about frequently in the land of the rising sun, and it's considered to be one of the most notorious cases in modern Japanese history.
Wow.
It had a major impact on the nation itself too, and not just psychologically, but legally, and led the government to lower the minimum age of offenders punishable under criminal law from 16 to 14. Perhaps the worst thing about this case is that one might have seen it coming, said journalist Gamal Krumar. Yet neither his family nor Japan heeded the telltale signs. From a young age, Azuma had been secretly carrying sharp tools around, and even wrote in his diary, "I can ease my irritation when I'm holding a survival knife or spinning scissors like a pistol." By age 12, he was tormenting animals, lining up rows of frogs in the street and riding over them with his bicycle, and cutting off the heads of stray cats. By the time his rampage on humans began, Azuma was displaying all the signs of
I don't understand the want or the need to be mean to animals. People, I understand. People are assholes, okay? Yes, and I know what you're saying. Bill, animals can be assholes too, but you know what to expect from animals. You know? You'll think people are nice, and half the time they'll bite you faster than a dog will. It's sad. Unless, you're into that kind of thing, then it's a good thing. It is what it's. Let's move on.
hikikomori syndrome, a form of severe social withdrawal that's uncomfortably common in Japan, often brought on due to the intense amount of pressure youngsters are subjected to by their parents and by their educators. Japanese children are confronted with an extremely difficult examination at the tender age of 6, wrote Krumar. Their performance effectively determines their whole future, for it decides whether they'll go to a good elementary school or one of the despised state schools. Parents have no faith in the state system, and Azuma's mother was no exception. She pressured her firstborn to excel at school, even though social workers warned her that her son was mentally unstable. Azuma escaped into anime and manga, and rarely interacted with other people, whom he viewed as vegetables. The words he wrote on his notes to the media were even lifted
That's
straight from the
crazy.
pages.
That is literally craziness. Oh, your son's mentally unable to handle any kind of pressure. Don't do nothing. Do better, son of a bitch. You're gonna do better. I don't care if it breaks you. Here's the kid. This face right here was its brain going.
Of his favorite manga. Many parallels have been drawn between Azuma and another killer in Japan, the otaku murderer, Tsutomu Miyazaki, another social outcast and hikikomori. Even before Azuma's rampage made headlines, the older generations in Japan were already lamenting about how young people were becoming amoral degenerates. Once he was apprehended, they used Azuma's case as evidence to support their hypothesis that kids these days were becoming more violent and civil society was doomed.
I can see that. I blame
The
TV.
Japanese media often supports this thinking, and in Azuma's case, said that his actions were influenced by the manga, anime, and video games that he escaped into. But others have questioned whether young, developing minds should be put under such extreme pressure. After all, is it any wonder that so many young people in Japan regress from society and become hikikomoris when the alternative is a life of stress and servitude? Azuma was clearly a
If we didn't have people pushing people, we wouldn't have geniuses.
rotten egg. Every society has those. Perhaps a less pressurized environment may have assuaged his dark impulses and kept him in check. Perhaps it would have only delayed the inevitable. Perhaps it wouldn't have changed a thing. But
Probably
to use
not.
him as an example of a general societal decline
That's
is
making
a
me
step
dizzy.
too far for some. The vast majority of hikikomoris don't become maniacs after all. They're just peaceful recluses who don't want what their society's selling. Namely, an endless cycle of work, sleep, repeat. These critics instead say that it's not young people who need to change, but the country's educational system and the unrealistically high expectations of parents and elders. But I suppose that's a debate better suited for a different channel.
Probably.
Just as Shinichiro Azuma had been inspired by Tsutomu Miyazaki, it's believed that his actions went on to inspire another killer in
That's
the
so
city of
pretty.
Sasebo. In 2014, an unnamed schoolgirl took the life of her 15-year-old classmate by slicing off her head and left hand.
What the
The
fuck?
victim was found inside the girl's home, sprawled out on a bed, with her belly sliced open. When
What
asked
the
for her
fuck?
motive, the girl later told investigators, "I wanted to dissect someone." Though her actions were of course inexcusable, the general public did at least feel a modicum of sympathy for this unnamed female. After her mother's untimely passing, her father had effectively abandoned her and left her to live by herself.
Maybe he was fucking scared of being dissected in his sleep. Like, what the fuck?
It's easy to see how her mind could have become warped. But as for Azuma, the public have been less than forgiving, especially considering how remorselessly he's acted since his release. Today, Shinichiro Azuma is 40 years old and allegedly lives in Tokyo, working as a mechanic. He married one of his admirers from his fan club, with whom he now has children of his own.
That's crazy.
I wonder how he feels when they're walking home from school.
Probably
Actually,
sleeps like a
I
baby.
wonder if he feels anything at all.
Probably not. Probably don't give two fucks. Okay, I get it. The actual what's going on was it what made it the worst crime? What made it the worst crime was the fact that it was done by a 14-year-old child. Okay. First say, yeah, I've heard something that's way worse than that, bud. But dude, when you sit back and look at it and realize, no, that's just a 14-year-old baby going around doing that to his classmates. That makes it worse. The one, okay, yeah, I get you, got you good. Yep. That's a good video, though. Good video. Thank you guys for the suggestion. I really enjoy the suggestions y'all give me. Like, you guys have not failed me with not one suggestion. I love it. Love everything y'all make me watch. Against my will. Alright. If you all enjoyed today's video as much as I did, please leave a thumbs up. If you're a fan of the spooky, scary, strange, think about subscribing. Yeah, as always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. What is this with kids and cutting off heads? Like, bro, I don't have this fascination to cut off people's heads. I watched cartoons when I was little. I watched anime when I was little. I've seen Dragon Ball a time or two. I've seen Bleach. I've seen a lot of shit. You don't see me running around like no Naruto running everywhere trying to slice people's heads off with a great sword or nothing, no shit like that. That's just fucking weird.